Now, 2013 seems to have been a year, up until now, filled with divisive movies. Movies that just split audiences right down the middle. We've had Man of Steel, which, if you've seen the review that I did of that with Sam Bellucci Media Geek here on YouTube, we spent like 45 minutes talking about that movie because of the divisive nature of it. There was also Only God Forgives, which I've not yet seen, but I know that Sam reviewed with Ollie in Vid Ninja here on YouTube. And again, another very divisive film that gets people talking. Well, the movie that I'm reviewing today very much falls into that category because I believe this film either gets rave reviews and is praised or is completely slated, and the reason for that is that I believe this is a very, very uncomfortable watch. Now, the film in question is Compliance. Now, this is written and directed by a guy called Craig Zabel. I'm not familiar with any of his other work. This could be his first film. I'm not familiar with him at all. And it stars, the main character is played by Ann Dowd. This film follows a true crime that actually happened in, I can't remember when it was. I vaguely remember this happening and being on the news. And essentially it follows the workers at a fast food restaurant. In this case, the name of the restaurant's been changed from the movie, apparently, but they receive a phone call from somebody claiming to be a policeman or a detective who accuses one of the staff members over the phone of having stolen money from a customer's purse while she was serving her at the checkout. So, of course, the manager, played by Ann Dowd, takes it sort of on face value and proceeds to follow the instructions given to her by this policeman on the phone, and begins to question and even strip search the girl who has been accused in the back office of this fast food restaurant. Needless to say, after what she's asked to do and how many different people become involved, once this plot has been taken to the most extreme conclusion, it transpires that it was actually a prank phone call, one of many prank phone calls made by a guy who had been doing it. I mean, it must have been for quite a while. He'd been at this, ringing places and accusing people and getting them to do really degrading things to each other as a prank, and he was found out. Again, I mean, these aren't really spoilers because this happened in real life, and like I said, I could vaguely remember sort of the outcome of this being on the news, so those aren't spoilers, but it's a film that, honestly, and it even says this at the beginning with the title card, if you didn't know that this was based on a true story, you wouldn't believe it. The title card does say, you know, nothing has been exaggerated, this actually happened, this unbelievable true story actually happened. And I have to say, I want to get my feelings about this movie out right off the bat. This is one of the single most uncomfortable, tense and claustrophobic movies I have seen in a long, long time. It also will most likely end up on my top 10 of the year overall, because this film sets out to make you uncomfortable, and I think this is why I believe it was even booed at like whichever film festival it premiered at. I believe it got a very hostile reception, but this film sets out to make you uncomfortable. It sets out to point out the stupidity and naivety of modern, well, I mean, it's set in modern America, and this is where it happened, but it doesn't just apply to America, but, you know, modern Western culture. It basically sets out to show that, you know, most people or most sort of, you know, average people are inclined, and they put some facts up at the beginning about this, but are inclined to follow instructions given by what they perceive to be an authority figure. And they sort of use that to not justify but explain the actions taken by the characters in this movie. So when this guy, this disembodied voice over the phone, tells them to, you know what, take all the girl's clothes away from her, we need to find this money that she's supposedly stolen, they do it sort of without question, and as the requests get more extreme, or rather the orders get more extreme, you can see a sort of element of reluctance in the characters, but they do it anyway because they think that this guy is an authority figure and don't question it. And in that regard, it's a terrifying movie. It really is. I think because, you know, I'd like to say, and I do believe, but because of the nature of the work I do, I think it makes me sort of naturally, not suspicious, but wary of things like this. I would like to say that in that situation, you know, I would clock on to what was sort of going on and stuff, but I think we all know people who might go ahead with it, you know, if they were put in this situation. So I think this is why the film didn't work for a lot of people, or rather they think it didn't work. It made them so uncomfortable that they naturally just sort of became hostile towards it. But if that's what the film sets out to do, and it does, it's not an easy watch, but it achieves its mission. It makes you uncomfortable. It educates you on you know, sort of modern Mac society, you know, like McDonald's society and stuff, and Mac jobs and stuff like that. So it's a film with quite a bit to say. It's less than 90 minutes long, and to be honest, that's a good thing. Had it been any longer than 90 minutes, you would probably be suicidal by the end of it, because it is so uncomfortable and so distressing. I was on the edge of my seat literally all the way through this movie. It's very, very effective. Now, it's shot wonderfully, and like I said, I'm not familiar with the director at all, but it's shot amazingly well. There's certain shots in this that I just thought, oh my god, like, how has nobody thought to do that before? You know, they're only little things, but the film visually is very interesting, and I think they do that to really keep you hooked in, to stop you, like, switching off because you're so uncomfortable. It's also shot in a way with a lot of close-ups, a lot of extreme close-ups and stuff, and very little is seen outside the fast food restaurant in question, and it's a very claustrophobic movie. They almost make the audience not necessarily a participant, but privy to what's going on, and you do feel very claustrophobic while you're watching it. The performances are all fantastic. I can't fault anyone in this. It's the performances are very naturalistic. You know, it's not a quasi-documentary feel, but the people feel like real people. Anne Dowd as the manager, who, you know, sort of is the first to start obeying this disembodied voice, is fantastic, and especially right at the end when she's been sort of interviewed about what happened and stuff. There are so many layers to her performance. There's such a you get the impression, a desire to be accepted, a desire to be loved, and also there is a certain element of naivety, and she just brings a lot of layers to her performance. She was absolutely brilliant. And the girl playing Becky, the girl who is accused of theft, I forget her name, but she again is really good. I mean, she's not given as much to do, but she certainly, in being vulnerable and stuff, and she is, you know, she's like a slim, young, blonde girl, and when she's stripping off, you know, she manages to sort of bring enough vulnerability to the performance that it's not titillating at all. Like, you know, anybody who finds the scenes where she's like stripping off or is walking around wearing nothing but an apron, it's not attractive, you know, and that's really a testament to her performance, because I think had she not been able to sort of convey the naivety as well, and the vulnerability, that could have gone the other way. But no, I thought she was great. And the guy playing the disembodied voice is, I believe, the guy from The Innkeepers, main character from The Innkeepers, which was a Thai West horror movie. Again, I can't remember his name, but he's great as the disembodied voice. Has a very sort of authoritative voice, but also when you begin to see who he actually is, and you see him on the other end of the phone, the way he plays that, and he never explains his reasons for doing it, but there's enough in his facial expressions and his gestures and his mannerisms to get an idea of why he's doing it, and that's something for you to discover yourselves out. I don't want to ruin that for you. So the film overall, I thought, it's a great movie in as much as it's very effective. It does what it sets out to do. It makes you uncomfortable, it makes you squirm, it puts you on the edge of your seat throughout the whole thing. The performances are great. I can't really fault it, other than this. The subject matter is so inherently distressing and uncomfortable that it's just not an easy watch. It's not a let's spend a sort of Friday night with beers watching a movie, because those were the sort of circumstances under which we watched it. And, you know, we'd actually been watching Richard Pryor's stand-up prior to putting this in. And we put this in with we had a friend over, and we all just sat in silence for the whole movie, just like sort of sat watching, mouths agape. So it's a good movie. I would say a lot of naysayers don't like it because it made them feel uncomfortable, but that is not a reason to dislike a movie if that's what it sets out to do. So Compliance will more than likely be on my top 10. I recommend it. Honestly, I would recommend it to anyone, because I think it's it's an important movie in as much as it points out a lot of failings with modern Western society, and I do think that it's, you know, got a lot to say in that regard. So Compliant, I would really highly recommend.